Just hop in at the top. It's
Yep.
wonderful to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited about today.
Me too. So let's start our journey into your work by asking you this.
Yeah.
5 years ago, this pandemic was raging, hitting a new phase, so many unknowns, so many things were going on. How did you make it through it, and how did it radiate into your work today?
Yeah. Thank you for asking. I was an FBI intern before I started as a full-time employee, and I started as a full-time employee in February of 2020. So it was just a very interesting time going from being an intern in a different field office to then coming to my permanent office. So at that time, like I really didn't know what was expected of me in my actual position because as an intern, we have a lot of fun. We do all kinds of interesting things. It's anytime anything's going on, they're like, hey, take the interns. So it doesn't really look like what an actual job would look like because they're trying to give you all the highlights and all the fun to try and bring you on full time as an employee. And I certainly got that experience and I loved it. And then I became a full-time employee in February of 2020. So I'm trying to figure out the lay of the land, figure out the building because it's basically a maze inside of there. Figuring out what my role is, who I'm serving, what I'm supposed to be doing. And so it's all just like starting any other position of getting your feet wet and figuring out where you stand. And
Yeah.
then very soon after the pandemic hits. And I think everyone was in the same boat there where what do we do? What's happening? How serious is this? This seems very serious. We should take it seriously. And so I had gone from trying to tread water and figure out what I was supposed to be doing in the office to then being sent home for very long periods of time because we worked in close quarters. So we were going to have one person in the office every day so they wouldn't be in transmission of anyone else because that's what we knew at the time and that's how we were keeping ourselves safe. So I go from not knowing what I'm doing in the office to not knowing what I'm doing at the house
Yeah.
and trying to work from home and figuring things out. And during that time, I'm like, okay, Leah, you don't really know what you're doing. You're still trying to figure out your job. How about you do something that will be relatively productive in that, you've done a lot of presentations, you have a lot of mental health knowledge. Why don't you spend your time putting together like presentations and lectures and talks that you can do to educate people on mental health topics? Because that was something that we were still doing virtually, at least to try and we actually called it the Staying Connected series. So to stay connected with other people. So that was a big part of what I did during the pandemic. And then personally for me, like I love being at home. I love like not having to commute and not having to get on the train or anything like that or walk in the cold weather. So for me, it was perfectly fine. And also then I ended up saving up all of my sick and annual leave because I really didn't need to go anywhere or do anything. So personally, it was just fine. But I would say, my role within the bureau was very different than other people's roles because I'm professional staff. And I think that's something a lot of people don't understand is that we have agents, which is, the exciting
Yeah.
stuff out on the streets. And then you have professional staff, and we're more behind the scenes supporting everyone. And so that's my role as a psychologist is behind the scenes supporting everyone within the bureau. So I think that that's an important distinction to make. And one thing I should say is, yes, I am an FBI employee, but everything that I'm going to say here today are my own thoughts, beliefs, opinions, biases,
Yeah.
and this podcast is not sponsored by the FBI or endorsed.
Sure. Sure. No, I
Yeah.
get it totally. So let's needle in a little bit more to the marrow of what you do. I'm going to put you in
Yeah.
front of a bunch of 12-year-olds. It's career day. Kids always get the truth out. And one of the kids in the back of the room is like, hey, what do you do for a living? How do you answer them?
Yeah. Yeah, I do a bunch of different things, which is why I enjoy it so much. There's a lot of variety. So, because I'm an employee, I have a security clearance, so I can offer therapy services to any of our agents, our professional staff, our task force officers, and then we also include family members in that. So anybody who wants to have therapy services, we have mental health professionals on board, and I'm one of them. So my specialties are trauma and sleep, and they go hand in hand. So we have a lot of folks who work with trauma. That's just something that is a part of the job because of what it is that we're asking people to do. It is very challenging. You're seeing a lot of things that the average human probably won't and shouldn't. And so because of that, we have mental health professionals on board to take care of our folks. So trauma is a very big specialty within our mental health professionals, but I'm the only one who works with sleep and specializes with sleep, and those two go hand in hand, right? Like if you have unprocessed trauma, chances are you're not going to be sleeping very well, and when you're not sleeping very well, then your mental health probably isn't going to be so great in the daytime. So it's kind of like this vicious circle that keeps going around. So I do a lot of one-on-one sleep work where I help people. I get a really good understanding of what's going on with their sleep, what's going wrong, and how to help them. So I spend a lot of time talking to them and analyzing their sleep patterns and their sleep data, and then coming back to them with a plan. And then we work together to improve their sleep. And then also because trauma is another specialty, I'm also doing other mental health interventions because 9 times out of 10, I get a ton of sleep referrals, but oftentimes it is underlying untreated depression or anxiety or trauma that's often feeding this sleep disorder or just manifesting and looking like a sleep disorder. So that's one piece of what I do. Going hand in hand with that is a ton of education. So I travel a lot. I do a ton of lectures and education for our staff all across the country, but then we also like foreign partners, family members, like anyone who might be invited to one of our conferences. So I do tons of education, not just on sleep and trauma, but lots of different health and wellness and resiliency topics. So that's something that I love getting a chance to do. Um, Another piece would be crisis work. So if something big happens and we need mental health professionals there to do like some psychological first aid and to just offer support, that's something that I'll often do as well. So those are like the few different pieces that come along to be a part of my job.
So what did you want to be at 12 years old? What was your dream job?
A dolphin trainer.
Okay. All right.
Yep. I think that I had a very transformative SeaWorld experience. And so I wanted to be a dolphin trainer.
Okay.
Ironic, I don't really like water.
Okay. So it wasn't going to happen.
I, yeah, I'm really not sure. I would also say an Olympic gymnast. I'm pretty sure that if you
Okay.
asked 12-year-old Leah that she would also have told you that too.
Yeah.
Uh, and I made it to college, but then I had a career-ending concussion. So, we were on track.
Yeah, but
Not
yeah,
really.
things happened. Yeah.
Things do happen.
So what about the FBI? Was that always kind of something that you were thinking about, or how did you fall into this work?
No, I not at all. And I truly did fall into it just like what you're saying. So I had gone to John Jay College of Criminal Justice for my master's degree, and I was still receiving emails from them, even though I had moved on to St. Louis University for my PhD. And I would still check my John Jay email, and I saw that they were looking for interns. The FBI was looking for interns, and you could put your application in. And I said, well, why not? Sure, let's do it. So I put my name in and I did the interview and I did all the onboarding things. And then they needed to do my background check. And it just took a very, very long time. So long that I actually missed the first summer that I was approved for. And so, of course, I needed to be the squeaky wheel. So I kept calling and calling and calling. And I'm like, hey, I'm still interested. I'm still here. I still want to be your intern. And so it wasn't until the following summer. And then even like the summer had already started. They had already onboarded a lot of their interns, and like finally at the very last possible day that they could have taken a new intern, that was when I started. So it was like by the skin of my teeth. So I was an intern for 2 years and then became a full-time psychologist whenever a position came open.
So in the lore of Hollywood, they always glamorize the FBI and there's
Oh,
all these
yes.
agents and characters. So who was your favorite character? Who's your favorite FBI character that's been immortalized on TV or
Clarice
film?
Starling.
Who?
Clarice
Oh
Starling.
yeah, 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 yeah. Okay.
Silence of the Lambs,
Yeah.
which, we talked about this before the podcast started recording. I'm from a small town in Pennsylvania, and where that location is where they did a lot of filming for Silence of the Lambs.
Oh,
And you can go to Buffalo Bill's house and do a tour, and it's also an Airbnb, and you can stay over. I've not stayed over, but I've gone and done the tour, and it's a lot of fun. So if
wow.
you're a big Silence of the Lambs
Yeah.
fan, if you're a big Clarice Starling fan,
That's
yes,
it. Mine was
Buffalo
Dale
Bills.
Cooper. I had a rendezvous with Twin Peaks in my 20s. So,
Okay.
David Lynch was in there. I mean, David Bowie actually, I believe, was an agent as well. So, yeah, that was kind of a galvanizer for me, so to speak. Um,
Yeah.
so how did sleep become your focus? You could have picked anything. What is it about sleep?
Yeah, I was not the best sleeper, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I got to my residency year, which is your final year in your PhD, where basically you have to go to a location that's going to take you on, and you do a bunch of different rotations. And basically this is your final year, and they want to make sure that you are super well-rounded for you to go out into the world and become a psychologist and become licensed and be practicing on your own. And so I had matched with the Memphis VA Medical Center, and I wanted to go there because they had a few special rotations, ironically, like related to forensics. And that's what I really wanted to do. I've always been wanting to do something with forensics, something with law enforcement. So I got matched at the Memphis VA Medical Center. And one of the very first days, all of the interns, all of the postdocs, we all have to go into one room, and no one comes out until everyone is happy with what their rotations are going to be because there's only so many people who can go on each rotation and only so many rotations that happen throughout the year. And so everyone has to come out relatively happy and compromised. And I wish I could go back in time and remember if the sleep clinic was one of the rotations that I wanted.
Yeah.
Because really, I came there for like two specific forensic related rotations. And then the other ones, I was kind of like, oh, these seem interesting. Like, I'm open to whatever. I want to compromise with you guys. And sleep was one of them. And don't know that I really even knew a whole lot about sleep before getting onto that rotation. But what I did was I learned how many people are struggling with sleep. That wasn't something that I was really cognizant of, but how many people were struggling to fall asleep, struggling to stay asleep, struggling with nightmares, struggling with obstructive sleep apnea and wearing their mask because that can feel very traumatizing, especially for a veteran population. So just really understanding all of the different things that people were experiencing. And then I would run like a sleep hygiene lecture, and I would have people literally falling asleep on me while I'm trying to teach about better sleep. So how ironic.
Yeah.
But it just went to show me, oh my gosh, there is no shortage of people who are struggling with sleep. Like, this is incredible. So fast forward to getting hired on full time as the FBI psychologist. And then one of my very first days, the supervisor was like, okay, Leah, so what's going to be your thing? And I was like, well, okay, what is going to be my thing? You know, in the world that we're still living in, but back then was 2020, mental health is starting to become more trendy. It's okay not to be okay. Like, we're trying to move towards that, but there's still a lot of stigma. Joining a law enforcement community, let alone the world's most elite law enforcement community, there's still stigma around that. And I said, okay, well, I just came off a rotation at the sleep clinic. I know a lot about sleep now. Why don't I make sleep my thing? And then people can get a chance to know me. They can learn from me. They can realize I'm not terrifying. Because sometimes when you say you're a psychologist, people kind of just about face, like turn around and walk away, and they like don't want to share anything at all with you.
Yeah.
So I thought, why don't I do this? Why don't I have sleep be my thing? And then that will open up the door for people to be willing to talk to me about other mental health things. Because I think that no matter who you are, everyone can relate to having a poor night's sleep. You have a
Yeah.
stomach ache, you have a pet that needs let out in the middle of the night, your air conditioner breaks and you're hot as hell. Like, everyone can relate to having a poor night's sleep. And so I thought, well, why don't we just do this? And that'll be an easy in, and then people will be open to talking to me about other mental health concerns. So that's how it all started, really.
So who's been an inspiration? Who's been kind of a hero for you to become who you are today?
Oh, that's a great question. It's probably chintzy to say, but my mom,
Yeah.
she was always the person who had said, like, you have nothing to lose, and like, just go for things. And if someone tells you no, like, go to the next person. Like, don't give up, just keep going. And I think that that's, way back whenever I first got the offer to be an FBI intern, and then the first summer I missed it because they couldn't get my background done in enough time. A lot of people might have just said, oh, well, maybe that's what fate wants for me, or like, that's it, or they couldn't get it done in time. But no, instead I was like, the person who I've grown up to be because of those messages was like, no, I'm going to keep calling you and you will finish this background so I can be an intern. Like,
Yeah.
this matters a lot to me. And so I would say that I'm maybe like a pusher, or I'm someone who really gets things done because of that attitude and because that's the way that I was raised. And yeah, there have been lots of times where maybe the odds were slim. Like, when I was in my master's program at John Jay, the United Nations was looking for an intern for psychology. And I was like, well, I got nothing to lose. Let me throw my hat in the ring. And I got it. So I think that that's a beautiful like motto to live by, is like, you don't really have a whole lot to lose.
Right. Being involved in a big organization like the FBI, which is obviously very well known, that has to be somewhat daunting to walk into that level of just that level of lore that goes into the FBI. How long did it take for you to feel like this was the right place for you, that you picked the right thing to focus on sleep? Was there a moment? Did you have an epiphany, or was it a gradual lead into you just feeling okay and comfortable where you're at?
I don't know that there was necessarily a moment, but I would say from the very beginning of being an intern, it was always a lot of fun. There were always a lot of really interesting things going on. You will never find a nicer group of people. They're just incredible. So I would say I don't know that there was like a moment where I was like, "Oh, this is it. Like I've made it." It was just probably a gradual number of experiences that all came together.
So do you think Hollywood depicts the FBI accurately, or is it kind of hokey
Not
and
at
weird?
all.
I didn't think
Not
so.
at all. No, because again, what and some of the things that you see on TV may be accurate, but we don't have 3D hologram projections or anything, any crazy technology like that. Like a lot of things are just made up because it's exciting and it's for TV and they want you to watch and keep watching. That's why you don't see any of the paperwork that we do or all the emails that we have to respond to or the meetings that are super boring. So I would say whenever it comes to depicting things on TV and movies, I would say they're made probably like the very, 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 very highlights is what you're actually seeing, and not all of the behind the scenes legwork that actually goes on. And yeah, like again, just all the paperwork. Because even if you're an agent, there's still so much that you have to do in order to
Yeah.
make sure that everything is done properly and all the boxes are checked and everything is as it should be so it can hold up.
Well, and a lot of that stuff you got to plead the fifth on because, I mean, you can't just let the public know what's going on. Like when it comes to the CIA or the FBI, like you literally, that's why I think the only person that I can think of in any recent memory that alarmed the government was Tom Clancy because he had such an insight into the CIA. Right. But I've never heard that with the FBI where they're like, oh, wow, that person got it right. Like, but we always go for it. It's the big theme. It's what people want to watch.
It is. It's just very exciting. And I have a lot of contact with young people just because I really like teaching and mentoring. And so I end up being the person who will take a lot of those calls and mentor people. And I don't like sugarcoating things. Like it really is important that you know what this looks like. Because a lot of times people think, oh my gosh, a psychologist for the FBI, like you must be criminal minds or this or that. And I'm like, let me stop you right there. That's not what it looks like. That's not who my population is. That's not what I'm doing. This is actually what it looks like. And it's very similar to what a mental health professional would be doing on the outside.
Yeah.
It's just that I belong to this organization. So I think that there's a lot of, at least with my position and people who are young mental health professionals who want to go into that field, just doing a lot of reality checks and letting people know what it truly does look like. Because yes, for Hollywood, that's what it is that they need to do to get eyes and to get viewers is to make it very exciting and glamorous and interesting. And I think that if you asked a lot of people that we would say, no, that's not what it looks like at all.
So let me ask you this. If you could meet one person alive on the planet right now that you find fascinating, that might help you professionally grow, who would that be? Who would you love to meet and talk to?
Taylor Swift.
Okay. So you do we talked about the Chiefs thing. So yeah, that's
Go
definitely
Taylor's boyfriend. Yes, I've been a fan for a very long time and I think she's just incredible, not just singer, songwriter, guitar player, piano player, but businesswoman and also just from my point of view seems to be an overall really incredible human being, seems to really want to give back, seems to be just a very nice person and like from my understanding the Eras tour that ended not long ago of everything that she gave back to all of those cities and the people who work for her and her dancers. And she just seems like an overall incredible human being and and an amazing businesswoman
yeah.
too. So, I would love to sit down with her.
I think all of the hate and vitriol is so misguided because I've seen the movie and watched the inside. All of those
Yeah.
things are totally accurate, but I think there's an artistic integrity that goes into who she is. She's not falling back on sound machines and past laurels. She's always kind of evolving and going to different points. And when I was watching that movie, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot she was in country music for a while, and then she segued
Yeah.
into the pop world. And she's
Hmm.
always kind of done that. And yeah, all of the giving back. And I would think for females on the planet, there's a level of kind of the Jane Goodall vibe. Not that she's doing the same thing, but when you get to that powerful point, you make a choice. Do I give back or do I just be this person that doesn't have a voice? And she's put her voice out politically. She's put it
Yeah.
out for social issues. She's been very open about all of that, and I think it's totally admirable. I just don't get the hate. And maybe it's because I'm in Kansas City and I see so many headlines, but I'll ask people, I'm like, are you like people in Buffalo, are you really upset that the Chiefs beat you? They're like, nah, we're okay with it. We just don't like Taylor Swift. I'm like, why? What's the big deal? And it's like there's never really any substantial reasoning behind it. It doesn't make any sense.
You can never please everyone.
Right, right.
It doesn't matter who you are, you could be anyone and you cannot please everyone. And I think it seems like maybe she's gotten to a place where that is something that she is okay with and is accepting. But I mean, overall, there will always be haters. It doesn't matter who
Yep.
you are, but it seems like she has created such a safe space. Like I went to the Eras tour back in October, and just the amount of people there, but just like friendship and
Hmm.
girl power and a safe place. And I love that she's able to create that.
Yep. Yep. So let me ask you this. How do you balance all of this work that you do and having your own soul and your own life that you need to protect? What is that Libratic balance for you every day?
Oh, yeah, work-life balance can definitely be a challenge at times, and I try my best to be able to figure out where that is. And now that the book is coming out and trying to like market for that and let people know, it is definitely taking more time. So, but it's just really important for me. I love being outside. I have a dog who is my everything. I love spending time with her. So when we're done here, I'm gonna go take her outside and spend some time with her. But just figuring out what it is that's important to me, making sure that I'm doing things with friends and having social connection. I'm a huge scary movie fan, so I just went and saw Final Destination Last Bloodlines, which was two thumbs way up. So just trying to make sure that I'm finding time in my life to go and do these things and stay connected and have fun and also work hard too. So it's just trying to find that work-life balance, and some days it's great and some days it's not so much. But I think that it makes it easier because I'm very passionate about what it is that I do. Like I love talking about sleep. I love helping people. Like I just started a YouTube channel. It's like very infancy of trying to put out like free educational content about sleep and ways that we're getting in our way, in our own way when it comes to sleep and messing that up. So just trying to like I think that some of the things that I do are a lot of fun and so it doesn't feel nearly as much as work as I imagine some other jobs and positions feel
Yeah.
like.
So let me ask you this. If you had a dream tonight and ran into that version of you right before you found out about this internship, and you could give that version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've lived in the FBI and where you've come to this point, the wisdom you've gained, what advice would you impart on that version of you?
Trust your gut, keep going, that this is what it is that you need to do. Like stay true to yourself and trust that the education that you have and the information that you have is going to be very valuable to people.
So being in the FBI, obviously there's a lot of serious stuff, heavy stuff going on in
Mhm.
that world. If you were to walk into a room of everybody that works with you, that knows you in this official capacity, and you could tell them one fun story, a concert experience, jumping out of an airplane, outrunning a bear, some kind of fun story that would humanize you, what story would you tell that room of people?
Oh God, this is the only thing that I can come up with right now, and it's highly embarrassing. So this was back in like high school,
Yeah.
and I told you that I love scary movies already. So Halloween is my day. I love all things Halloween, scary, spooky. Like I will as it comes closer and closer to like spooky season, if you will, I am very serious about like figuring out where the haunted houses are, when I'm going. There have been nights where I've gone to three haunted houses in one night because like that's how serious I am
Oh,
about it.
yeah.
Like I'm a connoisseur. So, okay, fast forward or rewind way back when I'm in maybe even middle school at this point in time, and there's a haunted house like not far away at all. And my friends, who was a very good friend at the time, her parents own it, and so we would go over there all the time. And at the very end, like you already know that this is going to happen. Like you can hear the chainsaw, but again, we're middle school girls. So I'm with like my best friends, and at the very end, the chainsaw comes out and it comes out of nowhere and it scares the crap out of you. And then you have to run back up this hill to get to the very end, like back to the beginning where everybody is. And so we're just a group of girls and we're running up this hill and we're trying to get away from what we know is like a fake chainsaw, and we're like stepping on each other's like the backs of each other's
Oh
shoes, and we
God.
like are falling down, and we're like just like covered in mud, and we're like trying to climb up this hill and like run away from this fake chainsaw. And so that's like the first thing that comes to mind, and I'm like, yep, that feels about right.
That's awesome. I remember going to one of those when I was really young, and there was a guy that had like a retractable knife, and he threw it out, and it just totally freaked me out. I thought I was going to get plowed, and it was just some of those
Oh, that's
places are really,
cool.
it's theatric. And then I've heard about these places that they make it like as real as possible and try to absolutely scare you to death, and you have to pay for it.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Okay, so I'm not at that level where they actually like touch you or they can hurt you or anything, because I do know that there are places like that exist. That is not, I'm
Yeah,
not open to that.
yeah.
But what you're talking about, I went to a place once, this was years ago, and it was like the vampire's lair was like the area that we were in, and they had people like up in the rafters, and they were like hooked to some type of like bungee thing, and they would come fly down from the rafters, like hiss in your face
Oh
like a vampire,
no.
and then come like flying back up into the ceiling, and I'm just like, that was
Uh-uh.
the coolest thing in my life.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. That's
I'm
wild.
here for all the Halloween
Yeah,
stuff.
that's awesome. So let me ask you this. Of everything that you've done in your life up to this point, what are you ultimately the proudest of?
Maybe this book.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it's obligated to answer on the spot, and when we hang up, I'll come up with something even better. But I would say right now, I think it's this book because I had no intentions of writing a book. I just went to a conference and spoke a couple months ago at this point, and someone came up to me. It was a big audience, and she was like, "Hey, this was great. I loved it." But my best friend wasn't here, and she's the one who really needs this information. Like, do you have a website? Do you have a handout? What do you have? Do you have a book? And I was like, "You would be interested in a book?" Okay. And then I thought, well, what do I have to lose? Again, that
Yeah.
same like mentality of like, well, what do you have to lose? So I went home and for about 2 months, I just wrote and wrote and wrote. And then it was done. And so now it's like with an editor and a cover designer and everything else. But it was a lot of fun for me to sit down and to think about all the lectures that I've done and all the people that I've worked with. And there are some really standout stories of people that I've helped and unique things that I've helped them overcome and do and get to a place where they are sleeping a full night's rest. When previously, I worked with one person, he was sleeping 1 hour a night. Like, incredible. So I think that I would say I'm hoping that when this book comes out on October 1st, that it just touches lots of people and that it helps lots of people, because I only have so many hours in the day, and as much as I'd like to sit down and help every single person, it's just not something that's possible. And so I would say that I'm hoping that the change that this book makes is what I'm most proud of. So, maybe you'll have me on again and we can,
Yeah.
future Leah and past Leah can talk to each other again.
So the Sleep Advantage, October 1, 2025. How can people
Yeah.
pre-order? If they want to reach out. Any other good business, where do they go?
Yeah, so my website is drleahkaylor.com, and there's a place there for you to put your email to get information about the book, when it's coming out, when you can pre-order. So go on there. If you want to work with me one-on-one, you can also find my sleep packages on my website at drleahkaylor.com. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. I also
Hello, friends. Joe Domino here. I just wanted to let you know that after 30 years or so, I have finally released my first book of poetry through the mighty Spartan Press here in Kansas City, Missouri. As the creator and host of both Neon Jazz Radio and the Famous Interviews with Joe Domino podcast, along with being a visual artist, I'm ready to embark on a new adventure and want you to be a part of it. You can get a copy online via Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and actually on the streets in Kansas City at the great Prospero's bookstore off 39th Street. You can also visit joedomino.com for links to the book, to more poetry, and everything in my world, including paintings. Thanks for all of the love and support over the years, and please dig the words.